go. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me back there? Let's do a sound check. Good. Welcome to the Board of Public Works and Safety. Today is Friday, August the 4th. We are recording and streaming this live on City Madison YouTube channel, and it can be viewed later at the City Madison website. Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Good morning. Mr. Eaglin?
Here.
Mayor Courtney?
Here.
Mr. Carlo?
Here.
Perfect. Board, have you had an opportunity to look at the minutes from July 17th? If so, we will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as printed.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on, we have the claims.
Mayor, I'll have make a motion that the claims be approved as submitted.
I'll second David's motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. No adjustments. Don't see Brian here, but I know we're represented by Rob and Matt from Commonwealth. We have unfinished business. So at the last meeting, we had introduced for the board and board's review City Madison, Indiana Design Standards and Specifications Manual. Rob, I might go ahead and ask you to. Yeah, I'm getting to that.
Old business.
I have that here right
Okay.
after we get to this part here.
Okay.
And I'll just give a little bit of a preview of this. Over the course of the last probably 6 or 7 months, we've been working with Commonwealth on a couple of things. One, through City Council to update our streets and sidewalks ordinance that had not had a kind of a freshen up since the 1960s. We'd identified a problem with the way utility cuts were and the excavation related to utility cuts was happening across the city within our roads and sidewalks. That is, over a long period of time, created significant damage to our roads. Our roads are a major investment. We have over 100 miles of roads and sidewalks, which, if you can imagine that, put them end to end, we'd be going all the way up to Indianapolis to take care of our roads and sidewalks. And if you visualize it like that, it will emphasize just how much there is to take care of, and that's just roads and sidewalks infrastructure. To correct and reverse the damage that's created from these utility cuts, we had updated the streets and sidewalks ordinance. We had last month I had introduced an ordinance that implemented a permit procedure, design and specifications for how our contractors are working in those spaces, an inspection process, and as well as a warranty process. City Council unanimously approved the ordinance that I introduced, and then we immediately started working on updating design standards and specifications to give guidance to the contractors, but also so that our inspectors know what to inspect. As you know, we've got a major water improvement project happening all across the city where there is exactly this happening, lots of excavation and repair work on water lines that goes on all across the city, essentially every part of our town, because of our underground utility infrastructure has to be maintained. At the last meeting, we had introduced this in draft form, and then myself, Nicole Schell, and others had worked with Commonwealth to incorporate items such as, the procedures and the permit and inspection process, as well as traffic management and erosion control, and all the specifications that contractors will utilize. So today is an opportunity for the board, anyone interested as well, to ask questions and let Rob give us a little bit of a preview of what this work will entail and how we'll be using it. So Rob, that was my long intro, but I'll turn it back over to you now because we're finally here with something that we've been needing for a couple of decades.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, really to piggyback on what the mayor had laid out, working with his office and Nicole's group and the utility staff, we wanted to kind of come up with a comprehensive guidance document that not only restated permitting procedures and incorporated the contents of the ordinance that was recently adopted, which which includes bonding and insurance and those types of things, traffic control, but also develop more defined requirements and guidelines for any contractor who may be within the city performing excavation work. And really where we're wanting to go with this is making sure that when we're digging up streets, that we put everything back together in such a fashion that 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, we're not facing settlement issues and we're not looking at potholes and whatnot. So what we have developed for this board's consideration for approval is the initial, I guess, packet of design standards and specifications, which really covers excavations and backfill, and then in addition to that, surface restoration, whether it's in the street, sidewalks, driveways, in the right-of-way, maybe outside of the limits of pavement, and then also within that, erosion control that needs to be maintained during construction activities. This document includes procedures. It includes specifications that the contractors should follow when they're doing the work, and then it also provides standard details to visually give them some guidance on what the city's expectations are for them when they're on site performing work. We've incorporated the requirements of your ordinance and made sure that this document is consistent with fees, penalties, insurance requirements, bonding requirements, so on and so forth, time frame, whereas, once a permit is issued, they have so many days to get the work done. All of that information that was previously outlined in your ordinance is restated in this document, in so much that even a copy of the ordinance and a sample permit application is the very first appendix that you would see in this document. So it's meant to be kind of an all-inclusive representation of what our expectations are moving forward for not only excavations, but also putting things back together. But it's also set up in a form that you can readily amend it to add to it moving forward, whether or not we want to standardize on sewer work or water work or other aspects within the city. This document has been drafted to kind of be dynamic and something that can be revisited by the board in the future and readily amended and added to. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you folks might have for me.
If we adopt the standard, of course, this, it's the detail, it's nice. I can't think of anything that you've missed. But should there be, say, some education for the contractors? Say a PowerPoint presentation to review this, because some of these folks may have never seen anything like this.
I think initially that's a really good idea. There's going to be some of your contractors that do work in town, like the Dave O'Mara's,
Sedams, yeah.
that are going to be somewhat familiar with these requirements because they've done, whether it's through us or other consulting firms, they've done fairly significant capital improvements projects that may have federal money tied to it. So these types of requirements are not going to be foreign to them, but for as many of those folks as there's likely going to be some smaller companies that I'm not going to say that it's not going to be an eye-opener, but certainly providing them with kind of a presentation and an overview certainly could be a benefit. I would absolutely think so. The more they know going into it, the better off you're going to be as far as an end product
Right.
goes, but also your inspectors, whomever that might be on any particular project.
Right.
They're going to have a level of
right.
comfort.
The contractors that are involved in this line of work are going to be familiar with this because they're already subject to standards if they're doing any work with NDOT, for example. And this is to make sure it's clear what the procedures are, because that clarity hasn't existed, and what we've ended up with is a lot of damaged roads, and we're trying to protect our investment. We've also went out and started doing an inventory of road cuts that are in a state of disrepair or unfinished. We have quite a few road cuts that have happened where the surface has never been restored. They've backfilled, but the surface hasn't been restored. And we put a process in place now to identify those and methodically start going back and correcting those worst. Do two things. One is finish the job where the surface hadn't been restored, and then secondly, correct those utility cuts that have deteriorated to where it's causing damage in the roads. Rob, I think it'd be helpful to maybe pick one example. So a common, and we're also doing the education. So we have a new system in place that we're using this for. We've been issuing permits under this system now for a few months, probably. That has already helped tremendously with the permitting and inspection process. That's already adding value. But the most common scenario we're going to run into is, us having a line break. And just like on West Street right now, we had a water line break down there near Trilogy, and Saddam is there, excavated, repairing that line. Maybe let's use that as an example of, hey, they got the permit and they've repaired the line, and now we need to backfill and restore that surface. I think we probably have a design guideline in one of these exhibits. Maybe walk us through the backfill process and then the surface restoration for a typical excavation in the road like on West Street. I think that'd be helpful. You know which exhibit we'd go to that, and she can scroll through and put it up on screen?
Sure. It would be one, two, three. Let's just go to the first detail in the packet. So it's in it's the last exhibit, or Appendix F, at the very end.
Appendix F,
It's
okay,
the last appendix.
okay.
So go to the first. Yeah, so this is good for talking purposes. So what you're looking at on the screen, and you folks that are looking in the packet, is kind of a representative cross-section of a typical excavation that would show a contractor digging down, working on a pipe in some shape, form, or fashion, whether they're making a repair or maybe they're connecting onto a water line to install a new service to a new house that's being built on a vacant lot. Once the work is being completed, you're going to have what we refer to as initial backfill over and around the pipe. What these specifications and what these details are going to outline and tell the contractor how we want the work done is basically we're going to have select material, NDOT qualified material, whether that's a granular material like a sand or maybe even a flowable fill. But for a granular material like a sand, these document is going to outline, Mr. Contractor, when you start backfilling, we're going to allow you to backfill no more than 30 inches at a time, and every time you put a 30-inch layer in, you're going to have to come in with some sort of mechanical compaction, achieve a certain density before you're allowed to put in the next layer of backfill material, and that's going to have to go all the way up through the trench surface. When they get to the top, and again, I'll use work out in a city street as an example, they're going to stop at the elevation whereby if we were building a new road, we would be then ready to put the base material down for the new road. What we're doing on our current water project is we're utilizing concrete for that material because availability of asphalt base was limited at the time. But they're gonna take compacted material all the way up to that elevation, and then they're gonna come in with either an asphalt type base or a concrete type material, build that road base back before we'll allow them then to come in with the final asphalt surface. If you go to the fourth, I guess the fourth detail, kind of zooms in on the surface, that right there. Once we get to the surface, what these contractors are gonna be required to do, you can see there in the middle, you've got your trench, right? Well, once they get up to the grade for base construction of the roadway, we're gonna make them go out even beyond the limits of the trench that has been excavated by a foot on either side. And that's where we're gonna start rebuilding the roads. And that gives us a good seal, and match up with the existing.
So it puts a cap over
Correct.
the excavation
It
effectively.
literally is a cap over
Yeah.
top of our excavation, and it's just an extra added level of protection for you guys.
And this restoration is probably used on, what, 90% of our trenches around here?
Anything that's within, subject to vehicular traffic would have this type of restoration, yes.
Good.
I think this is a great example of what our most common scenario will be. And it will be fixing a water line that's in the middle of the road. And as I was talking earlier about the inventory, you know, we went back and started inventorying, similar to what we've done in other areas of the city. We're like, well, just how significant is this issue? And we have almost 200 so far of these road cuts that we've put on an inventory that's in a various different state of condition and repair. And now with that inventory, we can identify the highest priority ones that need to be addressed, and that's where we'll deploy our resources. But having standards and specifications and design and permitting and inspection process will add a lot of value to protecting our road investment going forward, because we spend a couple $1 million a year on roads and sidewalks. And over a span of 100 miles of roads and sidewalks, it's an enormous amount of capital invested that you need to protect and extend the life of.
And back on the given the presentation, especially with staff who's gonna be doing the inspections out there when the work's being done, if you would like for us to come down and maybe do a lunch and give a brief presentation to staff, we'd be more than happy to do that.
We've been talking about it a lot. I think as we continue to educate our contractors, that'd be a good idea, which is to see if there are any questions. But I think most of them are very, very familiar with what we've introduced here. Any questions for Rob on the procedures? And I'll just leave it with this too, which is we're going to learn as we go. So this is something that is adaptable and scalable, and we'll see how it works with reality. Sometimes things get documented, and then there's actually common practice that's a little different that we have to adapt for. But the good news is it's a priority for us, and it'll pay dividends in the future.
It'll give you some teeth.
Yeah.
To be able to enforce things.
I'd like to point out that the standards, it not only pertains to road cuts, but it also protects the right-of-ways, going through the document, protection of trees and shrubs in the right-of-way, details how to work around those.
Yes.
If they're damaged, they have to be replaced, and so there's more to it than just making cuts in the road. So
Correct.
pretty in-depth set of standards, so.
It's a good document.
Board, any more comments or questions, discussion? Any comments or questions from anybody in the audience on what you observed, read, heard? what I would like to do then, so that we can just continue to complete the process, is make a motion that the Board of Public Works and Safety adopt the recommended design standards and specifications manual today.
I'll make the motion to approve the design standards presented today.
I'll second Carl's motion.
Okay. Any discussion, comments, or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Rob, thank you very much for this work, and I'm sure we'll have ongoing dialogue about it as we go.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, moving on, we had one other unfinished item, and that is, I'll ask perhaps Nicole to introduce this. This is a PACE extension for 815, 817 Second Street.
Good morning. Yes, 815 West Second Street is an extension by Cornerstone Society that was on your agenda from last meeting. And I'd like to take the time to invite Link Ludington, President of Cornerstone Society, to answer what questions you have. Their request is for an additional 8 months on this dilapidated structures grant.
Okay, thank you. Morning, Link.
My name is Link Ludington. I'm the president of the Cornerstone Society Incorporated. Well, as I understand it, one of the things asked was for an updated schedule, and I can either read this off to. I don't have it in printed form. I just have.
Okay, yeah. So just a little background here. We want to understand, really what schedule we're on with regard to the Cornerstone projects, including Walnut Street. We did take off the agenda the amendment for 111 East 4th Street, so that's going to move on as it was previously presented to the PACE committee. But that's what we're trying. So we're really trying to understand here is why do you need the extension? How far along are you on Walnut Street and on West 2nd Street? And so we'll see where the questions go. But that's why we had tabled this the last time.
Okay. Well.
Yep.
Well, with regard to, I was not aware that the Walnut Street was on the agenda for today, but I can talk about that if you have questions.
Yep.
As far as the 815, 817 West 2nd Street, I know that the mayor has been by there recently and has seen some of the most recent work going on. But our contractor, Dennis Webster, is here. And at some point, I don't know, I heard someone say something to the effect that we don't have a contractor. Well, we do. We have had a contractor from the very beginning. The first contractor that had started the interior work that was not part of the PACE grant scope of work died. In the meantime, then we found Dennis and have hired him to work on both the 2nd Street project and the William Anderson house on Walnut Street. And Dennis, as I think you're aware, I know you're aware, has worked on a number of other PACE grant projects, and that work has been noticeable, and we like him, and we want to continue with him. So anyway, Dennis just put together an updated this. Oh, it's ready. Okay, updated timetable. We have started, but he's proposing to complete rehabilitation and recoating of the roof this month, August. The work on the facade has been going on for a while, and expects to have that done next month. Siding has been ordered, and the repair and replacement of siding on the facade, as well as the east and west elevation, which is total replacement, will be in October. Doors and windows, which have been out, most of them, at least the facade doors and windows, have been out and sent off for off-site restoration, and I believe are close to being ready for reinstallation in November. Other fascia and trim repair and repainting in December. As it turns out, we do intend to remove the shed roof portion of the original kitchens and replace them with a new addition, because the amount of deterioration we've have uncovered in the course of the project, had made it clear that there's just not much potential for trying to rehabilitate the existing back wing of the building. And that, I mean, and all these plans have already been reviewed by Pace Grant Review Committee, by the Historic District Board, and approved. The changes that I'm describing were already incorporated into the Pace Grant application, so we're not changing the scope or nature of the work. We're just asking for additional time. And then, punch list, March of 2024. And with regard to, there are other extenuating circumstances that have resulted in additional delay, but the primary thing has just been the fact that the amount of deterioration that we've uncovered, and one of the first things we wanted to do was try to level out the front wall, which had a noticeable sag in it because of rotten sill. As it turned out, we were not able to. We thought we were going to confine the interior work to simply jacking up a summer beam that was holding up that front wall, but as we got deeper into it, we determined that the summer beam was not just supporting the front part, but in fact goes the entire length of the building. So, there was a limit to how far we could jack up that summer beam in order to level out the front wall without doing what needed to be done with the whole rest of it, which in turn meant removing floors that we weren't intending to remove. And it's just been one thing after another. And this, as you're aware, this is a property that has been in bad shape for many decades, and was not even occupied until I think the last five or 10 years, when an attempt was made to do a limited amount of rehab, and that just was not completed, and that's how we ultimately wound up with the property, and took it on as our first project in our revolving fund. So let's see what else. What else is
Lake,
there?
what was the name? Who was the name of your contractor again? He's here.
Dennis Webster.
Dennis,
Yeah.
nice to meet you. Okay.
So as I say, for the Walnut, the Second Street property, all we're asking for is an extension, and
How long has
was-
Cornerstone owned this property?
Pardon me?
When did y'all purchase this property, Cornerstone?
It was donated. It was 2000, I believe, 2018. We actually, our original PACE grant application was March 2019. At least part of the reason we were going ahead with this project on the timetable we were, and in the manner we were, was that one of our board members was very enthusiastic about it, and had decided to adopt that project. But that board member ultimately abandoned the project, resigned from the board, and ultimately moved out of town. So it was left to me at the same time that I was dealing with the aftermath of my stepmother's death from terminal illness and my father's situation before he died. So there was a period of time where I was out of town for extended periods of time and simply unable to deal with everything at the same time. And then we amended that application in July to reflect a more modest scope of work. Ultimately, we withdrew that original PACE grant application for the $7,500 amount, and we did not receive, there were no funds disbursed from that original PACE grant application. We withdrew that original application because when the rules changed and the new $25,000 category was established, and I began to see some of the projects that were being successfully being awarded that $25,000 amount, I contacted Nicole and said, based on what I can see, I don't know why the Second Street project would not qualify for the $25,000. She and Brian Martin came down there and took a look at it and said, yeah, it would. So, we withdrew the original application, submitted a new application in June of 2019. That was reviewed. In June of 2022. That was reviewed at the July meeting of the PACE Grant Review Committee. It was then awarded at the subsequent Board of Public Works and Safety meeting in July 2022. We had already started, as I say, some of the interior preliminary interior and exploratory demolition that was not originally intended to be included in the scope of the PACE grant application. And to date, our expenses over and above the then appraised value of the property have exceeded $40,000. So we've already spent more than enough money to exceed the $25,000 match, but we did not, I mean, we've spent more than that amount of money, but we haven't actually completed 50% of the scope of work as outlined in the PACE grant application. So once again, we have not actually received any disbursement of PACE grant funds for this project. So are there, and yeah, I maybe should have asked.
No, I mean, our,
Yeah, if Dennis, if you'd like to ask the question specifically of
Sure.
Dennis, because he's the one who's there working
so
on a daily basis.
let me preface it by this, which is we're really grateful and happy to see work progressing there, and that is that, you know, all of our neighborhoods are transforming because we're able to revitalize them. We're using the PACE funds and deal with dilapidated, unsafe structures that have, you know, blighted neighborhoods for, in some instances, decades, you know, like this one and others. So our interest here is to make sure, we're happy to see the work being done, but to make sure, you know, we're on a timetable to actually get them done, and that you have the contractor, the scope of work, and the financial resources to complete it by the end of the extended period. That's the goal,
Yeah, I certainly
and we're
share.
less concerned about what's happening on the inside.
I
We're
know.
more concerned about what's happening, as you know, on the outside.
And I share your frustration with the fact that the visible progress is not there, but as I say, we have had to address conditions on the interior in order
Sure.
to even proceed with further exterior work. Oh, and also with regard to capacity, I mean, if in fact you're talking about organizational capacity and not my mental capacity or something else, with regard to the Second Street property, as I said, this was going to be the first project in our revolving fund program. Our only prior experience with owning property was the Elks Building, which everybody is aware of, the resolution that we were finally able to effect on that project, which lingered for many years. And I hope everybody would agree that that was a successful resolution. At any rate, our revolving fund originated with a private donation of $30,000, a grant from the 1772 Foundation of additional $30,000. In addition to that, we have a no-interest loan guarantee from Indiana Landmarks in the amount of $70,000, and that's all in addition to the PACE grant of $25,000, which we have not yet received, but that's why we're here to ask for the extension. So I would, if you do have questions of Dennis, I mean.
So on that note, Link, you're saying essentially the budget is funded, that's gonna complete the work that is part of the PACE application on the exterior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you'd like to ask Dennis questions.
Dennis, welcome. You're welcome to give some remarks, and also I drove by and saw your team out there working, and I'm happy to see the restoration of that, because that's a nice block, restoration of that property happen.
Yeah, and as Link mentioned, it kind of hit a stalling point because that summer beam, though it appeared to be holding up the floor, there was a 2x4 that had been screwed to a joist, and it was hanging from the floor joists. The entirety of the house was just
Kind of floating?
suspended
Yeah.
over top of what little bit of crawl space it has. Well, before we started jacking it up, the front doors had to be cut open with a sawzall because the walls were sitting on the doors. And once we started jacking it up, and you notice the amount that the window frames moved and the door frames moved, we really couldn't start on the framework or the siding until we had it completely leveled out. And you can only move a couple inches at a time. If you go anything over that, you start breaking
out.
all
Well, the
kinds.
interesting thing about these homes is that you're not really sure what you're going to get into, and the issues can be much more severe when you finally start attacking it.
Yeah, and this is no exception on this.
So the foundation work now is done relative to the structural integrity, which is now allowing for the exterior and some of the interior work to be completed.
Right, and we've already ordered all the materials for the exterior work. So basically, it's just once it shows up doing the labor.
So you think it'll be finished in 8 months,
Yeah.
ready for market, looking nice in the neighborhood?
I don't know. I don't know about the interior. It's
Yeah.
all bones right now, but the
Sure.
outside will look nice.
Our interest here is really the exterior facade, the safety of it, because it was an unsafe structure for the reasons you just described, and then also beautification of the neighborhood. So I'm glad you're taking on the project, and this one looks like it's gonna have a successful successful outcome, because you've got a lot of partners involved in this one that is also very interested in bringing this property back to life. Will it still be a duplex, Link, or is it gonna end up being a single family?
No, as our plan is to continue to develop and market it as a single family, one floor. It does have a second floor, which is actually just a half story. But at least my attitude is, we essentially treat that as a bonus room. So if, the future owner wanted to rehab and incorporate that into the living space, it could. But, I mean, the two halves of the duplex together are a fairly generous amount of space. And I guess I should also mention that, as you point out, we have been working in partnership. I mean, aside from the loan, we have been working in partnership with Indiana Landmarks.
Yeah.
And Greg Sekula, the director of the Southern Regional Office of Indiana Landmarks, has been, I mean, if you want to call it tag teaming with me on project management, because of the fact that I'm out of town so much. But in the meantime, Landmarks has also taken on two other projects in Hanover, both of which I believe, I think they've already sold both of those, as well as projects in North Vernon and Beebe. So, I mean, when they agreed to help us with this, it was before they also added additional burden to their stock and trade. That plus, it occurs to me too that I said that there has not been visible progress, and there is not in terms of paint wallpaper type aesthetic issues. But anyone who's familiar with this project, I mentioned the fact that the front wall had a noticeable sag, and as you went down Second Street, you could see how far the middle of that had dropped. And it may not be perfect now, but if you go down there and eyeball the front of that house, it doesn't look substantially different from what it would have before all the deterioration started. And also, not that it is necessarily was necessarily the determining factor, but once we actually started working on this project and people started seeing activity, we had 3 different parties who were potentially interested in buying it as is without any further work done. And in fact, at one point, we had actually accepted a written offer. We decided to actually put it on the market, and if there was that much interest. And there were, based on what some similar properties were selling for at the time, we thought, well, if somebody wants to buy it as is and complete the rehabilitation, that we could take the money and put it someplace else. And that was even before we acquired the Walnut Street property. So we put it on the market. It was listed for $119,000. We actually got a lowball offer and countered at $79,000, and that was accepted on condition that the new owner would accept preservation covenants that would be attached to the deed, as many of our properties have. And in that case, the owner then afterwards said he'd made a mistake. He didn't intend to offer 79. He was only going to offer 70. But the plans were so positive that we said, okay, well, we'll take it, and at least it'll be done. And we were waiting for a closing, and of course, during that period, we were waiting for a closing. We didn't want to invest any further funds.
Sure.
And so, well, at the last minute, the deal fell through. He backed out and asked for his earnest money to be returned. So that's when you're also aware you met Jill Carlin at one point. Her situation's changed because in the meantime, her mother has died. She's had hip replacement surgery. We are not interrupting our plans at this point to accommodate a possible deal with her in the future. But that deal is not dead. I've remained in contact with her, and I won't go into her. The mayor at least is aware of the scheme that she had in mind. So that possibility is not dead, but we're moving forward with our plans on the assumption that we're just going to complete the rehab, and that deal will not work out. So that's where we're at this point. So if there are any further questions about the 817 West Second.
I don't have any, but maybe give us an update on the Walnut Street property, because it looks like now you're focused here. What about Walnut Street? Walnut was also in the same kind of condition, unsafe.
Property was
Yeah.
in horribly
Yeah.
deplorable condition. I mean, this is great compared to Walnut Street.
Okay.
The Anderson house, frankly, I mean, up until this, I mean, up until we were essentially forced to acquire the
What's your plans for Walnut Street? I haven't heard that yet.
The plan for Walnut Street, aside from initially just, stabilizing and salvaging the structure, is to do the same thing we are here.
You have a timetable?
Well, we're not asking for an extension on the Walnut Street.
I'm just curious, because you've been before us with that property, and there's a lot of complaints in the neighborhood. I'm just trying to gather information. Do you have any kind of timetable?
Only what's in the base grant application, which I did not bring with me. I have access to it, or Nicole has it.
Nicole, you have
We
anything on
was
that?
awarded that grant in, was it March?
Because I haven't seen any activity.
Pardon me?
I've seen no activity on Walnut Street.
Once again, all the activity has been interior. And right now, we're kind of stuck with the fact that we can't seem to get concrete contractors to use stuff.
There's no dumpster, there's no nothing out
Pardon
there.
me?
There's no dumpster, nothing shows any kind of
Actually,
work being.
we had a dumpster there at one point.
You did.
Which we used on a limited basis, but essentially because the neighbor to the south was ready to go ahead, crew ready to, and the dumpster was already in the street. We let her use the dumpster that we had there. And because of the concerns about limited parking and trying to respect the neighbors, all the further work we've done.
I think the most respect you can give to the neighbors is to go back to work on that property and see it to an end. This has been going on a long time. I don't know how many times I've had people come here and complain.
For 30 years, and if you like, I can show you the list of.
I don't need to show the list. I like to see some completion on this project.
Yeah, well, as I said, started to say, the next step is getting the concrete work done that has to be done in order to reconstruct the
Okay,
floors.
why don't we do it?
Pardon me?
Why don't we go ahead and do it? Give me a good
Because of-
reason why.
Could I answer, sir?
Yeah,
Sure.
Because of the drainage problem they have between it and the neighboring building, they're wanting to pour concrete pads for the floors in the front two rooms to kind of negate any kind of rot problem or whatever you could have going in the crawl space. Now, to pour those floors, which you might even know this, they'd have to be pretty darn flat to be able to lay a hardwood floor over top of it. So we've been trying to get a reputable concrete mason to come in and give a bid. I've only gotten 2 out of about 6 that I've contacted. Next week, I have another one that's coming to give me,
What's the date on your last bid?
I guess it would have been 3 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago.
Dennis, are you the contractor on that, on the Walnut
Yes,
Street too?
I'm overseeing most of the woodwork. Now, I won't pour a concrete floor.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think I can do it. I would frame it, I'd dig a crawl space, put in floor joists and everything like that, but they don't wanna take that direction because of the drainage issue. So I'm still just waiting on a concrete bid.
We've heard this story so many times, especially on the Walnut Street property.
This is,
Over and over.
yeah, I mean, this was a property that was unsafe and, prior owner was gonna demolish and build a new structure there. You all acquired the property. I think you said you were gonna do some dating of the wood there, and I'm not sure how much of the original structure is remaining. There, it sounds like it's very dilapidated, as you've described, but we are very, very concerned about, A, it's continuing to be in an unsafe structure status, but the, capacity is, the reason we brought that into the discussion was to talk about capacity. And do you have the capacity to do Walnut Street while focusing on Second Street, both time-wise, financial-wise, or are we just gonna have, another extension in a few months that we're gonna have to deal with and just keep kicking that particular can down the road? There's a lot of work happening on Walnut Street, and that's why we're placing so much focus there. It's a targeted area for revitalization. So we just don't wanna be in a position, Dennis and Link, to just stall it out and then, 6 or 9 months be in the same position we are right now. And we're a year ago.
Understandable.
Yeah.
As for the unsafe structure, we had a structural engineer, Peter Ellis, come in, and he helped with all the layout for the bracing. So
Is the bracing
whether or
done?
not, excuse me?
Has the bracing been put in?
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes, sir.
completed.
Yes. And
Okay.
as for the insides of the house, it is basically a shell now. So as any kind of weight that could be on the walls or any kind of debris that could be falling in or out, it's all braced and more or less empty.
So it's basically, you have no plan.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, I would look at it as from standpoint that bracing's really important because we don't want the building to collapse, right? And you have the fencing there. What we're trying to figure out is when will the plan for getting back on there, sounds like is the next step, the concrete, so you can get the flooring in place. But again, we're just trying to figure out, you know, creating some velocity on that structure was very important there was a real sense of urgency at the very, very beginning, and now we're really slow. And I know how construction trade works, and I'm very familiar with it, but we don't want to lose the sense of urgency on that property.
But most importantly, we don't want to lose the structure. And everybody seems to be skirting around the historical significance of the fact that that was William Anderson's home. And with regard, once again, with regard to capacity, at this point, with acquisition costs and expenditures on rehab, preliminary demolition rehab, at this point, we have approximately $43,000 invested in that property. With regard to resources, we have the PACE grant, which once again, at this point, we've not asked for any disbursement of the PACE grant funds. There was a private donation of $10,000, a $20,000 grant from the Community Foundation, Central Indiana Community Foundation through the Ephraimson Fund of Indiana Landmarks, and another no-interest loan from Indiana Landmarks in the amount of $30,000. So our total available funds at this point is $85,000, and we're already pursuing additional fundraising possibilities for completion of the interior. Interior in order to make it actually habitable. And another thing, with regard to dumpster, after that first dumpster left, because of the concerns about parking and having that parking space monopolized, all the remaining interior demolition debris was hauled away, trailer load at a time, with a truck haul trailer to avoid having a dumpster parked on the street overnight. That did add to the amount of time it took to do it, and it added to the cost of disposing individual trailer loads. And also with regard to the exterior, the casual observer, despite the, once again, saggy walls and gutters full of leaves, the exterior, except for the back, doesn't really look that horrible. It's the interior that's in bad shape. But because of the way that structure has been abused and remodeled over the years, we couldn't, I guess we could have, we didn't want to simply strip off all the junky vinyl siding on the exterior and expose what was underneath, because then it would have looked like a bomb hit it. In the meantime, we have located, not just for, we're going to be using the same type of thermally modified siding on Walnut Street that we're now going to be using on the Second Street property. We have identified a source, which it turns out it's local here at Phillips Lumber.
What type of siding was that, Link? I'm sorry?
Thermally modified poplar.
Oh, okay.
And just to make, and I keep trying to emphasize the fact that people now don't understand that poplar lumber that's being harvested today is not suitable for exterior use in the same way that old growth poplar 150 and 200 years ago is. But there is pressure treatment, there are pressure treatment processes, and this thermally modified technology for poplar that evidently does make it suitable for exterior use. So we've identified that source locally, and I believe you said for Second Street it's already been ordered, and we have a figure in mind for the Walnut Street. But once again, we don't want to rip the exterior apart until we're ready to put it all, if we have the materials on site and are ready to put it all back together. Plus in the meantime, we've also acquired actually historic, not just historically appropriate, but literally original historic window sash that we think are going to be suitable for the Anderson house. So let's see. What other questions are there about that?
I know that, did you receive a copy of the dated wood? You were supposed to bring in a copy from research done by Howard College or somebody out there on the date of the wood.
They want to know the date of the lumber on the inside.
Jan Beatrice promised it. You said you would get the report on the dating.
I think he's just asking you how you did the dating on the wood, what was the age? Yeah.
Darren Rubino's findings with regard to after dozens of samples, the latest dated harvested wood used in the construction of that house was 1844.
I was seen that report.
Okay.
Do you have it? Do you have it, Nicole?
I could email it to you.
That'd be, oh, Nicole would be the one to see it, but.
But once again, the dendrochronology was only to confirm the dating of the structure that had already been done, just based on physical fabric.
Yeah, it was supposed to come to this board for us to see it. I haven't seen it.
Oh, well, I was never aware of that.
Okay. Jan promised it.
Oh,
Okay.
well, I can email, I mean, if I have all your emails.
Yeah, if you give it to Nicole, that'd be great.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
she'll share it with
But
us.
No, I have those. Thank you.
But no, despite all the speculation or questions to the contrary, the identification of 713 Walnut Street as the William Anderson house was totally false. It's been published over and over and over again, and it's all based on bogus research. Somebody got mixed up. William Anderson, in his own autobiography, states that he built a small house right next door to the African Methodist Church, and the African Methodist Church is clearly noted on the original plat for that subdivision. It's the site that is now occupied by, it was built in the 1840s, torn down after the Civil War, and replaced with the two-story brick commercial building that is at 705 Walnut Street today. But William Anderson's house was on lot 1A, and that's the property he owned and paid taxes on and lived in until he moved to elsewhere in the same neighborhood. 713 Walnut Street, he never owned that property, never lived in it, and we've never found any evidence to suggest that he had anything to do with even building it. And we're working with the National Park Service and other involved agencies to get that, among other phony, phony research findings corrected. And,
We'd just like to see some progress,
yeah,
Bottom
and
line.
once again, me too. And,
Okay.
we,
as long as we agree.
we
Let's
already
get,
had one project.
let's
that,
get it done.
That we bit off a lot to chew, and we did not want another one, but, once again, it was the only alternative, it appeared at that time. Because it was about to be demolished, and we recognized the importance, whether anyone else did or not. And, I share your frustration. And you want to
Yeah.
get good.
But the neighbors down there are getting just fed up. You know that.
Yes, I know. And
Okay.
once again, we're getting that heat now, but if people are complaining about it with all the other successive owners, who each time just turned it
Well,
over
we're
and
just talking
sold for
about,
more money.
well, just stay on this project. Let's get it done. Let's get it to a final
Yeah,
and be done.
that's definitely what we want to do.
That's what we want.
And we've already done.
I know the neighbors want it.
We've already done more there than any other
Well,
owner in the past 25 years.
let's come to a completion. So we won't have to do this
That's our
again.
intent. That's
Okay.
our intent. I appreciate your interest and concern.
Okay, anything I can do to help completion, I'll be more than happy to help.
If you can get a concrete contractor to come down there and give us a bid and actually work in that neighborhood, that's where we are right now.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I mean, I'm serious, I'm not kidding. And I even, when Dennis mentioned that he was having trouble getting people to show up and bid, I talked to Gina Center to find out, who does the city of Madison deal with? And, she gave me some of the names on contact. But, I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, even when I was working with State Museum, we had trouble getting contractors to even show up for pre-bid meetings.
Concrete's in just about everything that's going on all across the state. It's very scarce
So,
material right now.
once again, I would very much like to get this going again, but we have to get the concrete done in order to reconstruct the one wall is most urgent right now.
Well, I'm pleased to hear the resources, the plans, stabilization of the property so that it's braced and it's not at risk of collapsing. We have the PACE extension for 815, 817, which we started a discussion with. We'll entertain a motion to approve the extension. It's 8 months, is that what the request was? Okay, I move that we approve the PACE extension for 815, 817 Second Street as proposed.
Mayor, it sounds like, we do have, plans in place for that project. I'd very much like to see it completed, and I know it's just gonna take time, and you're up against the deadlines, you're for the PACE deadlines. So I'll second the motion
Okay.
for the extension.
Any additional discussion? Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks for the explanation.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. Very nice meeting you.
Nice meeting.
All right, moving on to new business. We have a resolution today. I'm gonna run out and get something real quick. I'll be right back while you read the resolution.
Okay.
And I think Joe's on the line, right?
Resolution 40B-2023, a resolution of the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, closing a portion of an alley for KAC Specialties LLC. Whereas there has been a request filed by Keith Akery on behalf of KAC Specialties LLC for permission to close a portion of the alley next to 118 East Main Street, or Pearl Lane, from Hens Lane to Main Street for the purpose of tuck pointing at Unique Boutique on 118 East Main. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Work and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the following alleys shall be closed from August 28th, 2023, from 8 a.m. to September 11th, 2023, 3 p.m. A, the alley adjacent to 118 East Main from Hens Lane to Main Street. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that said alley as closed shall be under the supervision and control of KAC Specialties LLC at the time noted above for the year 2023.
Anybody here to speak for this application? All right.
We just wanted to shut the alley down so we can get up there to the snorkel lift and do some tuck pointing.
Okay, you're just gonna do it during,
What's that?
it's only gonna be closed when you're down there working,
That's it. And then I was asked to open it up at the end of the day.
so your snorkel lip will be moved out,
Yep.
out of the way, and
You know, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. I don't have that answer.
I
I
can't
didn't
tell
think
you
that
that.
through that far, but we'll do something. We got a parking lot right down there. We can put it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was-
they're gonna move the snorkel lift out during the off times when they're not working,
Oh, good.
and he may talk to the
Well,
city about some parking down in
Yeah,
there.
we'll get the barricades out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions? We have a motion to approve the resolution?
I make a motion to approve resolution 40B-2023.
The power company's already down there today covering lines for us for safety.
When you plan on working, doing the work?
What's that?
Starting right away,
Next week.
next week?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll second the motion from Carl. Any discussion? Comments or questions?
What was the date on that? What date did I put?
This says August 28th to September the 11th. Is it still good?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks for doing all the work down there, and the investment that's happening in that corridor too is fantastic.
Yes.
Keith, thank you.
Sure. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, we have a resolution. We'll invite our Economic Development Director, Tony Steinhardt, up here to talk about electric vehicle charging. Madison is getting into the future, or finally got here, I guess.
Well, I guess we're here. Thank you, Board of Works members. Today, we want to talk about electric vehicle chargers. As you know, we had 2 on our Main Street lot, and then as a part of the improvements being made throughout our downtown as part of our Destination Madison plan, as well as part of our parking enhancement plan, we've added 3 more chargers to date, all operational. So we have 5 chargers available in our downtown community, in our public parking lots, 2 on Main Street, 2 on our Mulberry Street lot, and then 1 at the Bridge Approach parking lot. There'll be 2 more added in the spring as a part of the improvements along the riverfront for that parking lot as well. So by this time next year, by 4th of July next year, let's say, we'll have 7 EV chargers throughout our downtown, whereas last year we just had 2. So we are embracing electric vehicle charging. The 2 on Main Street were replaced to match the other 5. We went through a process last year to select Cyber Switching as our manufacturer of choice for those EV spots, or for those EV chargers. And we also selected the app called Amp Up as the charging app that citizens or visitors would use as a part of that process. I'm showing you today on the chart, as well as in your packet, there is a dashboard. The city administrator will be able to see at any time the chargers, which ones are available, what are those are being used. Nicole, if you would go to the analytics real quick there, you'll be able to set time frames and see that we had 2 charging sessions. I think that's yesterday. Those sessions lasted. It'll show you the amounts of coal that we were able to save in the environment. We'll also be able to see how they're accessing the chargers either through the app or through the website. We'll actually see how much the cost of each session was and then the revenue created from those sessions. We will also be able to track the kinds of vehicles that will be being charged there as you have to set that up in your app or on the website. So it's a really robust system. I can tell you they've been great on a customer service perspective as we've gone through setting these up, and it's been pretty smooth. Today, I'm asking the Board of Works and Safety to establish rates for EV charging in our community. Our research shows that the communities charge a number of ways. We're looking to charge per kilowatt hour, and that would be a 25-cent a kilowatt hour. We know that communities charge anywhere from 35 cents to 50 cents a kilowatt hour. We also know that there's some other charging stations in town, and that is a reasonable charge to make. That will cover our electric expenses, the expenses for the apps, which we have to pay a registration fee each year to have the service with the Amp Up app, and then cover a little bit of maintenance costs as well.
Have you already read the resolution, Clerk? Okay, let's throw that out there, and then we'll come back to ask any questions from Tony and talk about the analytics and how good this is for the environment.
Resolution 41B-2023, a resolution of the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, establishing various fees and parking regulations regarding city-owned vehicle charging stations. Whereas the purpose and intent of this resolution is to establish various fees and regulations applicable to the use of city-owned electric vehicle charging stations and associated parking space. Whereas in accordance with Indiana Code 36-1-3-8A6, the city may impose a service charge or user fee that is related to reasonable and just rates and charges for such services. Whereas in accordance with the City of Madison Code of Ordinance Chapter 71.02, the Common Council by ordinance authorizes the Board of Public Works and Safety to control parking at any time it is deemed in the public interest on any alley, street, thoroughfare, or other public place except for angle parking changes on Main Street. The Common Council shall maintain the authority to change to any changes of angle parking on Main Street. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that shall be unlawful, A, to park any non-electric vehicle in a parking space designated for electric vehicle charging, and B, for an electric vehicle to occupy a parking space designated for the electric vehicle charging unless the vehicle is engaged in the charging process. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the use of all city-owned electric vehicle charging stations is subject to a rate of 0.25 cents per kilowatt hour plus applicable taxes and fees. Be it further resolved by the Board of the Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that all fees collected for use shall be deposited into Economic Development NRO 2297.
Yeah, so this is a great opportunity. Our charging stations will have consistent signage as well throughout our parking lots. It'll be clearly stated that you're only allowed to park there while charging. We'll also have additional signage that will direct people to the app and will allow them to easily work through the process of registering if they don't have the app and or going to the website of the Amp Up app to go to charge. Currently, I think 95% of all the charges to date have all gone through the website, not through the app, because we have not yet got the signs up. They're done. We just got to have them installed.
Good deal.
Now, which credit cards will work with this?
The app will accept all major credit cards.
All major?
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about credit card, but not debit card, or is it both?
I believe it's only a credit card
Okay.
on the app.
You'll set up a profile
Yeah,
on the
you'll set
app
up a
and then
profile
determine
just
how
like
you
you
want
do.
the payment to be made.
Okay, so,
Yeah, just like you would do on a normal
like Amazon?
Amazon or whatever. It stores it, and when you, as I understand it, if you have an electric vehicle, there's about 3 apps that use that throughout the areas that you travel. You use other communities use different apps, but this Amp Up is one of those 3 major apps.
And the The 25 cents per kilowatt hour, is that something that can be changed, or would that have to come before us again?
Yes, that would come before the Board of Public Works and Safety if we've deemed necessary to change that rate.
We'll continue to monitor it. It's a
continue to-
floating, I mean, we get, as you know, electricity is kind of always floating with regard to the pricing.
Yes.
And we'll need to avoid doing what has traditionally been done, which is set a rate and then forget about it, and then end up costing and losing a lot of money. But here, this really is a convenience. It supports tourism. There's not a lot of electric vehicles that come through our community, candidly. We launched this in about right around Regatta weekend. We're averaging a few charges a week. So it's something nice to have that will, support those who are here in electric vehicles. But with the analytics, you can see how many charges we've had in the past month, for
Yeah,
example.
so I went back to June 28th. You'll see that the average session during the time we've had it has been about 4 hours and 38 minutes. We've been told that it takes about 5 hours to fully charge a vehicle with these chargers. That's not uncommon. Most chargers are that way. The average cost per session, if you scroll down there, Nicole, just a little over $1.
And we see that we're averaging about one a day.
We're averaging about one a day.
Yeah.
One charge a day. That changes a little bit. You can see when we have weekends, I think
It'll
that's
pick
our
up.
visitors coming in.
Yeah.
And once we start promoting it and working with VMI to ensure that those are well-known throughout the community and through our visitor communications, I suspect we'll see more.
Well, and through the app, they'll also be able to see that we have charging stations in Madison when they come
If
to
you go to
town.
the map there, Nicole, so when they pull up an app and look, you'll be able to, you see exactly where those charging stations are. You can hit on those and it'll show you whether they're, I believe, it'll show you that they're available, so a person will be able to see
So up here, on your cell phone.
on
you'll
your cell
find it.
phone,
Yep.
correct, yeah. Yeah, they'll be able to see where they're available. One of the things that we are not recommending is the ability to do reservations. There's some other things the app will allow us to do, but we think it would be too hard to enforce and actually cause a negative experience for our visitors or residents.
And what is the process if we find someone that's parking in that and not using the charging facility? Just
They-
use that for parking.
They can be ticketed and towed,
Yeah.
Can we take
It's
it?
like any other parking
just like any
regulation.
other parking violation,
Very good.
now that you've given us that authority.
This technology is great, and again, another good service. I move that we approve Resolution 41B 2023 with regards to establishing various fees and parking regulations for city-owned vehicle charging stations. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Any comments or questions?
I'll just put it out there. One of the most frequent questions I get when in a conversation about electric vehicles is who pays for it? Assuming that if you own an electric vehicle, you're going to get your car charged for free. And I think this answers that question. That
Yes.
if you own the vehicle, just like buying gas, you pay for the electricity to charge.
Yes.
It's very affordable, but it is a
It's still a
cost.
cost.
There's costs associated
And
with
up
it.
until now, the two that we've had in our community were free.
Right.
And moving forward, we're recommending that changes.
We've expanded our investment
Yep.
for that infrastructure, and these costs will essentially cover the cost of operating the EV chargers. Any additional comments or questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank
Great
you, gentlemen.
progress. That took about a year to implement off of Tony's life. Moving into some other great investments. Thank you, Tony.
Oh, we done?
Yeah, yeah. Moving to some other great investments, this would be the CCMG bid award. I think our Deputy Mayor, Mindy McGee, is online and will walk us through the award of our spring paving contract, which is one of our biggest.
Good afternoon, Board. You can see on the screen a list of the streets that are included in our first application
Mindy, before you go through each of the maps, would you mind just going through all the streets that are going to be resurfaced and then go through the map, if you don't mind? That way we'll have a complete list, and then we'll go through we'll go through the extent of the resurfacing in that area. Okay.
Okay, so Blackmore Street, Poplar Street, a section of Poplar Street, West Street, Craigmont Street, Second Street, a portion of Second Street, and a portion of Mulberry Street.
Okay.
So to move to the maps, starting with map number 1 is Blackmore Street. Blackmore is one of the sections that was not completed in the CCMG work that was done in 2020, and it has needed to be done for quite some time. So we have included it in this application, and it will include pretty extensive concrete work as well, gutters, driveway approaches, sidewalks where needed, as well as a resurfacing of the roadway. Map number 2, to Poplar Street. So I wanted to also mention that as a part of this bid package, we're trying to maximize funds by combining the infrastructure work with current project work that is going on. So you'll see that in a couple of examples, Poplar Street being one. This section is from First Street to Bond Drive. We actually have 2 projects that are going to coincide with this. Excuse me. One is the open, currently vacant lot on the east side of Poplar there that will be transformed. And the second project is redoing parking lot on Bond Drive and beautifying that. So Poplar Street over the years has been paved, overlaid repeatedly. The crown on the road is very tall, so we will fix all that as a part of this project, not just a simple mill and pave, but we're going to get that back down to where the crown is appropriated and the road will be done properly. And then we will be doing some sidewalk work in addition to that to complement the projects. Just as a side note, that is a section of road that has a nap rock gutters. Those will not be removed or changed in any way, but we do have a section that's going to get relayed and try to improve that nap rock gutter, that historic gutter. Slide 3 is the West Street section. So we will be doing West Street from Main Street up to Michigan Road. This is a sorely needed road improvement. It feels like we have done sewer and water line connections in that entire section to almost every building. There are a lot of buildings that are being renovated right now, a lot of line work being done, a lot of past work where we have those failed backfills in the road. It's very rough driving surface, very poor service. So we're going to completely fix all of that with a new road surface and do quite a bit of concrete work and sidewalks, gutters, and curbs there as well. Slide 4 is Craigmont Street, back up on the hilltop. So again, on the 20 project, the paving went almost to Mauser Street, but stopped there. So we will pick up at Mauser and go all the way to Clifty Drive. This will be resurfacing and again, quite a bit of concrete work. There are some sidewalks that need to be replaced, a couple of driveway approaches, things like that. It will also give us an opportunity to fix a failed resurfacing around culvert around Bel Air. That is a very rough dip there from where that work was done and the backfill was not to our standards, and it failed. We went back in with some blacktop or coal patch, I'm not sure which we used, to try and make it look better to drive over the surface. It worked. It's not very either. So this will give us an opportunity to make that driving surface across that culvert to improve that. The next section is Michigan Road. This is the one that will be sort of in conjunction with the project, the Sunrise Shops project. We will do from Audubon Lane all the way to Miles Ridge Road. It will be a paving project, and we have a thermoplastic sign patch which will allow us to redo all of the road markings in that section. There are no sidewalks, no new sidewalks planned as a part of this project for right now. Slides 6 and 7 are the Second Street sections between West Street and Jefferson Street. This is extensive work that will be new road surface, many new sidewalks that need to be repaired and replaced. This is obviously in conjunction with the Arts District project works that have already taken place and will be taking place in the future, as well as improvements around the grocery store. So that section will be from West Street to Jefferson. Slides 8 and 9, same project area in the Arts Corridor, will be Mulberry Street from Main Street all the way down to Vaughn. Of note, in the Mulberry and Second Street sections, wherever we are replacing sidewalk, we will be taking the gutters and drains from those adjacent buildings underneath the sidewalk, so those no longer drain out onto the sidewalk surface. There are other improvements planned as well as we get into the details of it, but happy answering questions that you have on any of these sections, and go into the details of the bid. Hearing none, I will tell you that we received 2 bids from our contractors on this entire project. One was bid for our contracting, one was from also bid. There was almost $1 million difference between the 2 bids. Dave O'Meara Contracting came in at $1.696 million, and my recommendation to you would be that we accept that bid, that it is almost $1 million less than the All-Star bid, and also at the same time give the mayor the authority to sign the contract with O'Meara Contracting. Do you need to have the contract for August 10th on this project? So if you could give him the authority to go ahead and sign that, we will stay in compliance with that. Happy to take any questions on this project.
Yeah, so Mindy, I think you cut out a little bit, but we have to submit all of our award and contract information by August the 10th to NDOT relative to the grant requirement, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, okay.
Mindy, what's, reason I'm asking this question, Hanging Rock Hill, of course, is not open right now. Will most of these projects happen
Yes.
after that? So we'll have both hills, roads open when the paving starts?
And that's a very good question, Mr. Eklund, so I'm glad you brought that up. There are a couple of pieces in this bid that we are going to push, for a couple of different reasons. West Street, so the other thing that you didn't mention is that the county is working on the bridge there on West Street.
Yes.
That will happen this fall. So we are working in coordination with the county and with the state on the Hanging Rock Hill project, bridge project, to make sure that we don't make the traffic any worse. We are working with NDOT, just had a meeting with them this week to make sure that we understand the timing of reopening Hanging Rock Hill. And the county is aware that we want to pave West Street. We will not be doing that, and we are working with the county to make sure that they do their bridge work after Hanging open. And there may be a possibility that we could go ahead and do the paving on West Street without interfering with the bridge work, just because of the type of the work we're doing. We're just gonna work very closely to minimize any inconvenience after Hanging Rock is back open.
Thank you, Mindy.
So one of the other ones that we both Mulberry and Second Street. Some of the concrete work will go ahead on Second Street, while the road paving will be pushed to the spring. And exactly the opposite on Mulberry, we'll go ahead and do the concrete work and do the paving possibly in the spring. Depends on how all this comes together. We're going to get very closely. Do want to be careful on Second Street near the building until that building is stabilized and the owner has plans in place. We don't want to be doing a lot of heavy equipment work or milling around that building.
Yep, we have a lot of overlap as well as some issues we have to be careful with, and we'll just have to manage through this process. But as you can see, this is a very comprehensive list of streets where there is also other investment happening in that corridor that's allowing us to leverage the dollars much more effectively to produce even bigger outcomes for our streets and sidewalks. Any questions for Mindy?
Mindy, I appreciate your work on coming up with the list. There are 9 very good projects, much needed. I guess my question is concerning the bids. I mean, to me, $800,000 difference in the bids is kind of alarming on this type of a project. Normally we don't see that big of a difference. Can you address that?
Yes, I agree with you. I can tell you just a little bit that I know. I know that this has been a very complicated bid package. We had a pre-bid meeting to go over with the contractors because there was just a lot packed into this, especially the arts corridor sections. I'm not sure why. I feel like All-Star maybe went a little higher on theirs and each section because they weren't sure. Plus, we're pushing some to the spring, so we don't know what pricing is going to be for materials at that point. That's my best guess as to why they built in some extra on each segment that took them so much higher than O'Mara. I also know that O'Mara wanted to be very competitive on this project. They're working very hard to do business with the city, so I think between the two cities that created quite a bit of discrepancy between the two.
Well, I know the last few years we've had good luck with All-Star Paving and their bidding, and they've received a lot of projects.
Yes.
On the other hand, O'Mara has kind of been a little high in the last few years on their bidding on their projects. So, yeah, I agree that, maybe they're trying to get back in good with the city on their paving. But, I like their bid. Don't get me wrong. That's, yeah, 1.7, almost 1.7 million. That to me, that sounds like a good number, so.
I'm very happy with it as well, and that's the best answer I can give you. I think those two are part of the answer, but I can't tell you for sure.
Now, this project it's a 50-50 match, is that correct?
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay.
And our cap in any given year is $1 million. So we have a second phase for 2023 that we're already working on as a follow-up to the drinking water project that we're doing. So we'll have more to come on another phase of this. We'll entertain a motion to accept the bid and authorize the mayor to enter into the contracts to submit to NDOT.
I'll make the motion that we enter into the contract with Dave O'Mara, contractor, for $1,696,704.70 for the community crossings project, and authorize the mayor to sign the paperwork.
I'll second David's motion.
Okay. Any additional discussion, comments, or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mindy, thank you.
Thank you.
Mindy, good presentation. Yeah,
Mayor, with
Nicole.
your permission, could I very quickly update the board that we have applied for a second CCMG for the year?
Yes. Please do.
Just very quickly, I think our, Teams meeting is about to cut us off, so I'll just tell you real quickly that we did apply for a second CCMG this year. It won't be announced until probably November, so spring work, but it will be all the ones that are involved in the water project right now. So Hillcrest, Wildwood, the entire Sunrise neighborhood, Hatcher Hill, Franks Drive, and East Street, work that's being completed right now, will be repainted in its entirety in that project.
Good job, Mindy.
More to come on that, but that
Thank you.
that deadline's already come and gone, and we submitted another application for it. Thanks, Mindy. All right, moving on. Let's
You're welcome.
thank you. We'll invite Tony back up here to talk about Ready project and change orders associated with that.
Yes,
Couple
good
minor
morning,
change orders.
again, or afternoon now, I think. It's 1 o'clock, so, yes, I want to give you a quick update. Again, the CCMG project and leveraging those projects around some of these other Ready Works will really transform those neighborhoods and projects and also help with the economic development incentives associated with the new downtown grocery store. So, again, a great cooperation with the city from those perspectives. I would say that the redevelopment commission has, as a part of that incentive for the grocery store, is contributing to the enhancements outside of the road and sidewalk improvements in the Arts District with additional street trees and furnishing and so forth. So the redevelopment commission has approved that. As a part of what's on the change order is as we close out the final projects for the phase one, Ready, the Gateway project and the mural lot project, you'll see 2 change orders as a part of that. We'll start with the mural lot, and that there were a few site revisions that had to be made, and the unforeseen condition of the bottom of the mural, the kindness mural at the bottom, trying to figure out how to protect that mural and the stucco that's on that building. You'll see some changes had to be made to that. We also had some deducts that we took, and so that project itself actually had a deduct as a part of that change order. Those dollars are being applied to the Madison Gateway enhancements with the approval of the Regional Development Authority. On the gateway enhancements, we had a $40,000 contingency fee as a part of that project, as well as the redevelopment commission had additional ready dollars associated with that. So we would add approval of these. There was a couple minor revisions for some electrical work as well as some turning radiuses that the state required us to add and change. And then when we deleted the restroom project as a part of that and decided to create the bridge plaza that celebrates its history and legacy in the community, there was some additional expense for moving that small little piece of metal from the riverfront up there, and you'll see that included as well. So at this point, I'd ask for both of those change orders to be approved, with the money coming from the Ready contingency and the additional dollars coming from the Redevelopment Commission, a Ready contingency fund, which has already been approved by the Redevelopment
I know we'll enter into discussion here for a second, but pick the pace up a little bit on the meeting. I move that we approve change order 1 for each of the Madison Gateway enhancements and the Madison Mural Lot Ready projects.
I'll second that motion.
I have one question.
And now open for discussion.
The bathroom that's not going to be, is it going to be in the future?
No.
No.
No, we eliminated that out of a number of conversations within the community and our visitors visit Madison Incorporated and other folks. So that's the reason that was removed out of that project at that time.
Okay.
We know there's a need for more public restrooms,
But not
but
in that
there
location,
needs to be
potentially.
a plan
Yeah.
for it. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion, comments, or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
And moving on to PACE real quick.
midpoint for you. 705 Walnut Street, the Madison Christian Health and Development Services completed half of their PACE project. I did the inspection and it is halfway complete, so you'll see these are all her midpoint pictures. That back was fire damaged and was demolished and cleaned out. She has met the standard for a half disbursement. So since this is a dilapidated structure, she's asking for the disbursement of $12,500.
So, relative to the scope of the work and at this midpoint, you've inspected it and you're happy with the amount of the disbursement that's being requested?
Yes, because she has completed half, and I know that they're waiting for this disbursement of funds in order to continue on with the project.
I'll make a motion, we approve the PACE midpoint for 705 Walnut.
I'd like to amend the motion, which is to approve the midpoint, but add in the requirement that the facade is to be painted by completion. Is it okay with you? I mean, because we want to make sure, again, procedurally, these properties need to look like they're completed on the exterior after the work is done, particularly after there's a $25,000 investment. Now, I just want to, I think it's included in there, but we just want to make sure it is part of the scope of the work that facade is painted.
I amend
Or
my motion
finished.
to
Okay.
include that exterior work.
Okay, I'll second Carl's motion. Any discussion? Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks.
I have three finals for you. The first is 509 West Main Street. This is a rehabilitation grant by Meredith Heights. She completed the leaded window in her front door, as well as shutters work and tuck pointing. She had received a midpoint for the shutters and the leading and finish the tuck pointing of the entire structure in spots. She didn't have to do everywhere, but then also into her cellar basement. Her PACE grant was completed according to her PACE grant, and she's asking for the rest of the 50% disbursement in the amount of $1,850.
Can we handle all three of these with one?
Yes.
The next final I have for you is 201 East Main Street. 201 LLC is the owner of this property. This is another rehabilitation grant that only did tuck pointing, mostly on the rear of the structure, along the alley entrance there. You can see some befores and afters. They did have to take out a small section of bricks and relay it, but it stabilized that structure and was completed according to the PACE grant agreement. And they're asking for the full disbursement of $5,912.50. The last PACE grant I have for you is a dilapidated structure, 306 Jefferson Street. Jim Pruitt completed the restoration of this pretty seriously dilapidated structure, mostly from the rear. He tore off that rear wall and rebuilt it with approval from Historic Board, and completed restoration of the front with new windows, shutters, and some tuck pointing. He's completed his entire PACE grant and is asking for the full disbursement of $20,847.07.
I just want to say, wow, those are some great projects and more to come. And here we are taking, I mean, what Jim and others have done is taking blocks of, historically dilapidated, blighted properties that have been suffering from disinvestment for decades that's now getting a whole new life. I'll make a motion we approve the PACE finals for 509 West Main, 201 East Main, 306 Jefferson Street, and it comes with a gratitude for all the investment they're making Madison better.
I'll second the mayor's motion.
Any discussion, comments, or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chief Wallace, you want to give us a report?
I'll be brief. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Chief.
Just an update on the status of our officers. Still have four at the academy, but they're due to graduate on August 18th. Looking forward to getting them back. We have a comprehensive plan in place for a field training program, so once we get them back, we'll be in that for likely 6 to 8 weeks. Completed that, then they'll be ready to roll on their own, so we're excited about getting those four back. Officer Sweet, who's been deployed for about the last 8 months, is due to arrive back to our department on the 4th of September. Looking forward to getting Jared back. It would be probably a couple weeks of just, bringing him back up to date on maybe some law changes and departmental changes and just kind of getting his feet back on the ground. So within a couple weeks, he should be up and running as well. So that'll give us a total of 5, and then we are in the hiring process for 1. We'll see how that works out. But like I said, we're very pleased and excited about getting these officers back and getting up and running. That will certainly help our department as far as some procedural things and things we can get done. Our emergency response team went active August 1st. We're very excited about that. They had some outstanding training through an organization called Norse. It's a academy recognized, certified, so they're up and running, and should we need them, they're available to us once again. That's something that's been kind of near and dear to my heart since I was chief the first time we started that program. It kind of fell by the wayside, so to speak, with some personnel changes and those type of issues, but Officer Blankenship, who has extensive military training in this field as well, is leading the team and brought it back, and we're very excited about having them back and up and running. And I'll end by just saying that the mayor and I did meet, and Mindy, with some of the staff with NDOT earlier this week. Very positive meeting. Our big concern to them was the East Main Street area with some pedestrian traffic, safety issues, and just a high volume of traffic in general. Working very hard to try to calm that traffic down through traffic control devices that we have and through enforcement. But at the end of the day, they were very receptive and very open to some of our thoughts and ideas on what we can do now and what we can do in the future to really improve upon that. Now I think the mayor and I are both adamant on maybe some additional signage, the kind maybe you see out in the center of the street that really kind of grabs your eye. If you know what I'm talking about, the fluorescent colored pedestrian crossing signs or slow your vehicle down type signs. So they were very open to trying that. That's something that they really don't do a lot of, but they're willing to essentially do whatever we ask them to do to help us out. So very appreciative of NDOT and their willingness to take a look at that. And again, we're working on a plan for now and for the future. So.
Yeah, traffic calming down there is very important. It's a state highway with high volumes of probably 10,000 cars a day coming through that stretch of road on their way north out of town, and they're receptive to some traffic calming measures, and we're going to put together a plan to implement over the course of the next couple months and into the future.
I know it's your leadership's been outstanding on that, and you've worked hard on bringing us to the forefront.
The implication is it's state highway, so we have to balance the traffic needs of the highway system with our local community.
Like I said, I think you were as well. I was very pleased by their attitude and willingness to do basically whatever we ask them to do to help us out. So again, we're working on it now. Immediate some solutions, but the permanent solution will still be coming, and we'll work hard on that over the next several years to get that done. So with that, that's all I have.
Great job, Chief, and good job on National Night Out the other night.
Yes, that was very well attended.
Fantastic attendance, and everybody had a lot of fun.
Yeah, they really did. Perfect weather, and I have to say that's probably by far the best attendance we've had. And again, we couldn't do it without our fire department.
I know.
They were awesome. Helicopter landed, and I think everybody.
I got attacked by Kono.
Yes.
Yeah, again.
Like
You'll see that.
Yeah. What? What do you mean you'd like to see that?
I mean, again.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it next year.
That's right.
It's only an arm. I've got 2 arms for a reason, right?
That's right, exactly. Thank you.
Chief, keep up a good work.
Have a great weekend.
And
Thank
the
you.
green fire helmets went over real well, didn't they?
Went over real well. We had green and red.
Yes.
Did it?
Did have, yeah,
We ran out.
yeah.
That's a good thing.
It's kinda hard for the police department to match up, but we're gonna try to come up with something there, so.
Just keep the dog going.
Yep, thank you.
Have a nice
Well,
weekend.
thank you. For the sake of time, I don't have anything else to add for now, but we'll move right into public comment period. We've covered a lot on this agenda, a lot of substantive matters and large investments in our community. So if there's anybody here who'd like to address the Board of Public Works and Safety, now would be the time. Please come to the podium, give us your name and address, and express your concern or thought.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Next meeting will be Monday, August 21st. Enjoy the weekend. River Fest will have happened, I think, by
Yep,
then. Is that right?
be over, yep.
So we'll be prepping for River Fest. Yep. Thank you.
I'll second Carl's motion.
All in favor, please say aye.